everyone, my name is Chrissy and welcome to my channel. Today I am doing my 2020 September wrap-up. I read 6 books for the month, which is actually a little bit more than my average. I average about a book a week, which begs the question of why I try to do such big TBRs for readathons, though I've been trying to change that, and why I keep checking out as many books as I check out. At any rate, let's get started. The first book that I read is Bridge to Terabithia by Kathleen Patterson. I did a full book review on this, so I will link that down in the description. But as a basic summary, it's about 2 kids, Jess and Leslie, and their friendship, how they meet, and then building this world of Terabithia where they, rule with, not an iron fist, actually they're very kind, but they rule and they have fun and they play out in the woods in their imaginary land. There's sad stuff that happens. I'm not going to go into detail, but it is a very good book. I liked it a lot. I had never read it before, even though it's a very popular middle grade book, and I'm glad I did, even though I cried at 3 a.m. finishing it. The next book I read is I'll Be Gone in the Dark by Michelle McNamara. Now, this is a book about the Golden State Killer before he was apprehended. In fact, this book was published before he was apprehended. So just be aware of that when you do get into the book, that it's not going to have details of how he was caught or his sentencing or anything like that. It's just going to go over the crimes, the evidence that the police did have, and their kind of conclusions, or rather their thought process throughout it all. Very good true crime book. I don't know if I would say that's a good place to start if you're going to get into true crime, because there is some grisly details. Like, she doesn't get explicit in the crime scenes, but just hearing about it is kind of sad. It's really sad. The way that the Golden State Killer used terror on his victims was just, it broke my heart to read it. But it also was a very captivating read, so there's that too. Also, it horrified me to the point where I kept checking my locks before I went to bed, so there we go. The next book I read is Underdog by Marcus Zuzak. This is about the kind of trials and tribulations of Cameron Wolfe, who's a 15-year-old boy. This book in particular is like the first steps of a coming-of-age story, and not quite there yet. There are 2 other books that follow this one, so I'm thinking that the whole trilogy is a coming-of-age story, and Underdog is kind of the first bits of it. How to summarize this book, and this is a little bit of a bad way to summarize it, but this is what I'm going with, is that Cameron Wolfe is trying to dig up that courage to ask out the girl he likes. There's a lot more stuff that happens, and this is more of a internal struggle plotline rather than an external struggle plotline. I did like this book a lot, and the reason I think I like it so much is because I'm in school for counseling, and I'm getting my master's degree, and Cameron Wolfe is kind of this perfect person to study as far as the theories that we're getting into in my classes, so there's that. I do wonder how I would have felt about this book if I was a teenager. I think I would have been able to relate to Cameron a lot more. Not to say that this book wasn't interesting, it was. I definitely encourage people to read it. Marcus Zuzak does good work. The next book I read is This Is How You Lose the Time War by Amal El Motar and Max Gladstone. Do you guys remember the Spy vs. Spy in the Mad magazines? This is that, except for 2 ladies, and their colors are blue and red. That's what it reminded me of. Though these 2 ladies are agents who skip around on timelines and try and change time to their own specifications for their agency. Do we know what those specifications are? No. But we do know that these 2 lovely agents fall in love through letters that they leave each other. And then they have to figure out what they're going to do about that. I liked this book. I thought that it was fairly even flow. I liked the plot line. I love the letters that they left each other. I also have a full review of that book, and I'll link that down in the description below as well. The next book I read is Coldhearted Rake by Lisa K+, and this is a Regency, I think, romance novel. And it features a gentleman named Devon who ends up inheriting an earldom because his cousin Theo dies in a horse accident. Theo leaves behind a widow named Kathleen, and Kathleen is still living on the estate when Devon comes to, check everything out. Now, Devon and Kathleen just don't get along. They kind of bicker at one another, and they decide that they don't like each other, and this turns into attraction at some point, or they are attracted to each other at the beginning, but this kind of comes into a little bit of affection to each other, and eventually love, and that is the plot. Enemies to lovers. Regency style. I am going to be doing a full book review, so I'm not going to get into too much details about my thoughts, but just to phrase it, I liked the history part. I wasn't the biggest fan of the romance. And the last book I read is As Brave as You Are by Jason Reynolds. As Brave as You Are is about two young boys, Ernest and Jeannie, who go to their grandparents' house because their parents are trying to work through their marriage, so they're like, we need some time to work some things out, so you guys are going to spend a couple of weeks with the grandparents. And it's really about the relationships that the grandfather has with Jeannie in particular, because it is told third person limited through Jeannie's perspective. And so it's about the grandfather's relationship with Jeannie and, the things that end up coming to light in regards to the family and some of the secrets that the grandfather holds. I will be doing a full book review of this book as well, and I'll link that down in the description whenever I get it done. There was one book that I did a soft DNF on, and that is The Five by Haley Rubenhold. Now, the reason why I did a soft DNF is because I had to return it to the library faster than I could read it. And admittedly, this book was taking me a long time to read, not because I didn't like the book or I didn't find it interesting, rather because I felt like it was really dense with the information that was packed into it. Not a bad thing at all, it just was taking me a little bit longer to read than I think normal. And that is my wrap-up for September of 2020. Have you guys read any of these books? What do you think about them? Based on, what I said I liked and what I said I wasn't a fan of, what do you guys think is good for me to read next? As always, thank you so much for watching and giving me some of your time. And may you always get lost in the book.